So behind me is one of the main reasons why a lot of people are not only skeptical, but actually hate buying rebuilt vehicles. So this is a 2016 Nissan Sentra. This car was purchased a year ago from an insurance auto auction and repaired by, I don't know who. You can tell by some of these gaps here that they just didn't do a very good job. And we're gonna pop up a picture right here real quick. So check it out. You guys see how smashed this thing is? Yeah, it's pretty smashed, which would not be a big deal if, you know, if you fixed it right. But what I'm going to show you guys in this video is a couple of tips and tricks that you guys can use when you go out to look at a vehicle that you may be thinking about buying, maybe for yourself or for your kid. Because a lot of people do buy rebuilt cars, you know, for starting drivers, or if you need something just to beat around in, go to the grocery store or go to work in. They're very good and very efficient to buy because you save a lot of money off the retail price of these cars, simply because of the fact that they've been rebuilt. And if they're rebuilt good by professionals or, you know, by somebody who uses factory standards, then there should never be any problems. But if you go too cheap and you buy it from somebody who repairs it like this, then you have to take it to somebody else and get it fixed. So the first thing I would say when you're looking at a car, obviously ask the person, has it been wrecked? If so, was it repaired? What happened? Has it been a total loss? If you're talking about a rebuilt title vehicle, obviously it was a total loss, but you know, a lot of clear titles out there don't get reported as well. And some of them are even worse than, you know, a rebuilt title car. So you want to kind of gauge by the customer, by their responses to see, you know, kind of use your own discretion, see if they're being honest with you or not, see if the stories match up, run the VIN number online, see if it's been at a car auction. And once you actually get to the vehicle, you start looking at it. One of the main things that you want to do is you want to start with the wheels. So with the wheels being perfectly straight, well, I'm not going to say perfectly straight because now look at the steering wheel. So both the front wheels are positioned straight, but the steering wheel is turned to the left. So we already have an issue with alignment. That's already a red flag, because anybody who's selling a car, if they're a reputable company or if anybody that even knows anything about cars, they would take care of the alignment before they ever list the vehicle. So once you see that that's crooked, you already know you need to start looking at the actual wheels. You can see that the distance between the wheel and the fender here and the wheel and the bumper here is not even. Those two distances should be the same. So we can see that this wheel is a little bit too far forward, and that's most likely from the fact that whenever they were fixing this car, this wheel probably needed to be pulled forward and they pulled it too much. So that's how that happens. I've seen that happen before. Look at the distances here. You can see that it's pretty even. It may not be perfectly even, but as a rule of thumb, your wheel should always be centered out in the wheel well. It should never be too far forward, never shouldn't be too far back. And then you want to continue onto door gaps, fender gaps. We can see here the gap is looking pretty decent here. These cars, that's about normal for this gap. These gaps right here are usually a little bit bigger because of the back door, but you want to make sure that they are consistent. If they're too big, obviously a problem. If they're too small, definitely a problem, because then the door will catch it. So when you walk on this side, you can see that there is a lot going on here. You know, this right here is not lining up. That should be flat, you know. And then here you can see that's not lining up. That should be relatively flat as well. So we know that there is an issue going on here. And if you look at this door gap, it's a lot smaller here at the top than it is at the bottom. I mean, not a lot smaller, but there is a difference. And the door is not lined up. You can see here as well. So you want to make sure that all corners line up, and make sure that all body lines line up, and make sure that it's flush. So there's a lot going on with this car that the guy who bought this car doesn't speak any English at all. He's a Hispanic gentleman, and our entire conversation consisted of us using Google Translate and listening to each other on the phone. So, you know, he obviously did not see any of this. He probably hasn't been in the States very long, probably first car he's ever owned. So, you know, he bought the car and didn't even realize what was going on with it until, you know, his family members showed him like, yo, bro, this thing's all out of whack. Like, what's going on right here, you know? Look at this. And this is like really obvious, but like some cars, it's not gonna be this bad. But you definitely wanna look for stuff like this, like where you can see that the hood is all up. I think one of my best tip for you guys would be, if you're going to buy a car, bring a measuring tape with you. Another thing, you want to bring a buddy with you, somebody who knows cars and not a car guy. You don't ever want to bring a car guy with you. You want to bring like a businessman, somebody who's not going to tell you to get it just because they want you to have a car. You want somebody to tell you to get it if it's a good car. And most car guys, they'll just push you into getting it just because it's a car. So yeah, bring a buddy with you. When you pop the hood, you know, have him stand here and watch. Did the hood bounce over to the side when it popped? Did it pop up normally? Did it make a weird sound when it popped? Dang, it's a heavy hood for a Sentra. So once we pop the hood here, there's a lot of obvious things that are going on with this. If you look down in there, you can see that bracket right there, that white bracket there. It's got a gap of about 1 inch right there between it and the frame rail. And you know, you want to measure, you want to do like a quick measurement. So we can measure like from this bolt right here. It's easier with a tram gauge. Nate, hold it onto that bolt. And we'll go here to the center. We got 45 3/4 on this hood stopper. Here it's 46 1/4. So yeah, it's 1 inch off. And this is a very rough estimate, but the thing about this is it should be very close. The square of the vehicle should be very close to it being even. This being 1/2 inch off, there's no way that you're going to line anything up, you know? So yeah, you're gonna look kind of goofy out there with a measuring tape, but guess what? It saves you a lot of money and time and heartache, and then you don't have to sit there and rag on whoever sold you the car to all your friends and family who don't want to hear it, because you should have went out there with a measuring tape and not your buddy who wanted you just to have a 2016 Sentra. But what we are going to do, we are going to remove the front bumper cover, remove the headlights. Will probably be very easy to do because it looks like a lot of clips and bolts are just gone. So we'll square this thing up and see if we can get it all put back together for him and get him back on the road.
Let's get it on the front rack?
Yes, sir. All right, so we got it up on the rack, and we're going to go ahead and strip off the front bumper and the headlights. And I just took off the first bolt. Definitely not the right one that should be there.
There we go.
Oh my goodness. These types of people. You know, it really gives the rebuilt titles a bad name.
Yeah, I know, right?
None of the clips are right. None of the bolts are right. Just nothing right about this car. There we go. Wow. Not only are the welds horrible and not in the right spot,
Right?
they're just exposed. I am in shock. I am in shock. Look at my shock face. That is wild. So this frame rail probably is a lot lower than that other side. If you look at this fender gap right here, it's basically like almost normal, but then here it's really big. And it's like kind of dragging the fender forward. So I'm thinking that this rail is pushed down a lot. We'll measure it here in a second. we need to get it up on some blocks and get it strapped down, and then see what we have to do to it. So we got it strapped down, and we were ready to do our first pull. And after doing some measurements, we found out that this frame rail is about a 1/4 inch to maybe a little over a 1/4 inch down, and both rails are pushed over that way. So what I want to do is I'm going to position my chain on this side and pull up, and hopefully it will pull it up and over at the same time. And then we'll measure it again and see how it looks. All right, so we put a slight pull over, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this simple device here called a floor jack, and I'm going to simply push right here, and it should go right up. Oh, she's creaking. Creaking and a popping. Almost. Almost, sir. Almost. See what this hood is talking about. Well, our rails are squared up. So now what we need to do is look at our core support. And I am seeing that the core support is a little bit off. So we're going to put a little clamp right here in this part. Oh, you can actually see this car was damaged right here in this corner. You can actually see the weird shape that this is taking. So I'm thinking if I put a clamp right here and pull it over, it'll fix that up a bit, and it'll also send this core support over where it needs to be. So we'll do that real quick and see what happens. End up tearing. All right, guys, so I got the front end back together on the Sentra, and everything seems to fit up pretty decent. The headlights and the bumper, they're missing a couple of brackets in between each other, and so it's kind of hard to get everything on there without him. Like the side brackets are broken, but our job is done. The hood closes, the gaps all are lined up, the headlights are on it. We don't have any drywall screws in it anymore, and yeah, so he's gonna come get it, and hopefully he's happy with it.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
No problem.